Hey y'all, I'm Spooky Pops. Welcome to my channel. Today we are talking about Palworld and easy mistakes to avoid in your first or second playthrough. Maybe your friends got you involved in this game and you don't necessarily know exactly what's going on, so this is the best video for you. In this video, we go into my best Palworld tips, the easy mistakes to avoid so that you don't ruin your first or second playthrough. Let's get into it. When considering stat points, there is no reason to put early stat points into attack, for a few reasons. First, it is extremely inefficient compared to the other stats. You put a stat point into attack and it increases by 2. Not very good when compared to stamina. You put a stat point into stamina, it increases by 10. That's a 10% increase. And then HP, it's 100 hit points extra, a 20% increase, right? So putting stat points into HP and stamina, at least early on, is never wrong. I typically like to go, one into the HP, one into stamina early on. I could also see an argument being made for weight. Early weight management is important. I don't think work speed is going to be very good. You got pals to do all the work for you, basically. I think that's a waste of a stat point. But the key point here is that an early point into attack is tempting, but it's not the correct choice if you're trying to be more efficient. In the early game, the two most important attributes or stats are HP and stamina. These will get you through this early game. You can never ever go wrong with putting stat points into HP and stamina. When considering where to place your base, it would be a mistake to put your base in this early section right here as you come out of the cave. You want to go to a more favorable spot. For a base, you're looking for something defensible, you're also looking for resources, and you're looking for easily accessible pals. All of that can be found in this perfect location where I'm at right now. So right here is where you want to go to build your base. In this area right here, it is flat. It is big enough to support a big base. There are easily accessible pals all around this base. This cliffside gives you good defense when there are raids that happen. Now, you're in the perfect spot for your base. Do not place your base in a manner that is unfavorable for the pals that work inside your base. Let me show you what I mean. So if you place your base kind of on the front side of this, the edge of your base is going to be off this cliff side. You can kind of see this blue line across the ground here. That's the edge of your base, the perimeter of your base. That means that pals can fall off this cliffside. They can get bugged. It's just very unfavorable for your pals in this position. A much better way to build your base is to make sure that they can't fall off the cliffside. They can't fall into the lake. So that means that you want to place your base somewhere kind of in the middle of this area where the edge is just along the cliff there. So just along the cliffside there, as well as right along the cliffside here so that they cannot fall and injure themselves or get bugged. That is the way to place a perfect base. This is just an example, right? Not everyone is going to place their base in this location. You can take the idea and implement it into other locations. Just find a way to position your base so that it is favorable for your pals and for you. Having the right pals deployed at your base, working for your base, is essential for a quick and efficient growth and progress. Having 5 land balls here in my base right now working is extremely inefficient and not good when considering what you need done at your base. Every pal has certain capabilities known as work suitability. So when you look at this Tansy, he's a good planter. He can do handiwork. He can lumber, so he can log for you. He can transport and gather. Okay, we have a logger in Tansy. When you look at this Cativia, you see he's a handiworker, transporter, gatherer, and he mines. Okay, you have someone who can collect stone for you, who can mine stone for you, mine ore for you, so that they can then transport it back into your base. And finally, my last example is this Pingullet. So you have a Pingullet who can water, extremely important for your plantations. The point here is to have specific pals deployed for you that meet what you're trying to accomplish. Are you trying to log? Have a lot of loggers. Are you trying to mine ore? Have a lot of miners. You want to have a good balance? Typically, I like 2 miners, 2 loggers, and then a few different people to do odd jobs at your plantations. So you want a waterer, you want someone who can cook for you, which is a fox spark. Make sure that your pals are perfectly positioned so that your base is leveling up the way that you need it to. So this is what I had before I had 5 land balls in my base working for me. I have many Tansies because I realized I needed a lot of wood. I have 2 Cativias, I have 2 waterers, and I also have a fox spark who cooks for me. The Tansies also, besides logging, they also work on the plantation seeding, which is extremely important. So this is a really well balanced kind of early game pal worker thing that I got going here. The next tip is looking at specific attributes or passive skills that come with your pals. So for example, this Tansy, if we look at what Clumsy does, it's a debuff and it decreases his work speed by 10%. If you look at all these Tansies that I have out, most of them have some sort of passive skill that helps me as a player or helps the work speed go along. So this is an Artisan. This has a plus 50% work speed. Great passive skill. This is Swift. Increases their movement speed by 30%. Great passive skill. You want to look for these passive skills that your pals are going to have, and you want to avoid the debuffs that make them a worse worker. Let's talk a little bit about leveling up and what is the best way, the most efficient way to level fast and avoid early mistakes. The mistake to avoid in leveling up is just to kill things for the experience. The best way to level fast is extremely simple and very easy. Catch everything you see. You get bonus experience by catching 10 of one type of pal. So for example, if we look at our pal deck here, we can see down in the right-hand corner, the capture bonus and where we're at with the 10 captures. So far, I've caught 5 lamb balls. I've caught 7 cativas. I've caught 5 chickapees. I've caught only 1 Lifmunk. So use your pal deck to keep track of your 10 captures and capture literally everything you see. It's really not that complicated. The tutorial's wording makes it seem like you have to catch it in sequence. I know that some people believe that, but that is wrong. All you have to do is catch everything. The chaining that the tutorial refers to continues to happen even if you catch one pal and then another and a different one and a different one. It's continuous. It doesn't matter. Catch everything you see. As a side note, all pals give you resources. For example, those fox sparks we just killed gave us 3 flame organs. Weight management is extremely important early on. It's really tempting just to collect one resource or collect everything you see. This can be tempting, but try to avoid doing this early on when you need your weight management and you need your flexibility to move around. This is an example of how I've gotten weighed down. I can't move, I can't do anything. Really, you want to kind of play a balanced game of collecting just enough wood, just enough ore, just enough palladium so that you can really get your base going and not get bogged down and weighed down. If you do find yourself weighed down and over encumbered, it's really easy just to hit either all of it you can drop, half it with shift. You can also drop just one. Next, we're going to talk about resource management. If you are building things just to build things, maybe you want a lot of arrows at the beginning of the game because it feels really good to have a lot of arrows. You need those resources for something else in the early game. The most important thing to do is upgrade your base. That's what you want to be spending your resources on. Not necessarily extra arrows, not necessarily extra pal spheres. All of those things will become important later on when you have, an excess amount of resources. Okay, go ahead and make your extra arrows. Go ahead and make your extra pal spheres. But early on, you really want to focus on spending your resources in the right way. And the most important thing to do is upgrade your base. Now, this might just be me, but after playing for 4 hours, my pinky was extremely tired. It was cramping and I needed a change. So what I did was I went to options, controls, and I swapped keybinds. I made my sprint space much easier to hold the thumb and sprint than it is the pinky for control or shift or whatever it was and sprint. I made my jump control. I made my dodge Q. A great way to avoid the pinky cramps if you don't have a godlike pinky, gamer pinky, whatever you want to call it, a great way to avoid pain in your pinky. Speaking about swapping keybinds, how many times have you wasted a pal sphere not meaning to press Q, but you accidentally fat-fingered Q? I did plenty of times and I was tired of wasting pal spheres. I swapped my throw pal sphere button to V to avoid wasting all those pal spheres. A great way to avoid wasting those pal spheres if you find yourself doing so. It's really easy to waste time in the early game running around trying to collect these Lifmunk Effigies. It's easy to get sidetracked and try to collect them for your enhanced capture power. That's what they do. They enhance your capture power once you get so many. Once you get your mount, you move much faster and it becomes much easier to collect these Lifmunk Effigies. Higher level pals are not to be messed around with. They can easily kill you, and if you die, you lose all your gear and equipment. You don't necessarily lose, but you drop it. So you have to run back to collect it if you don't get picked up by some teammate. Higher level pals are best to be avoided, and they typically won't aggro you. As an example, there goes all my equipment, and I have to spawn and go pick it back up. So we've talked about what happens when you die, when the player dies, but what happens when a pal dies? It's less consequential than when you die, but it's still important to avoid letting your pal die. If your pal does die, you have to head to this box. You place it in the box. It takes a whole 10 minutes for it to revive. Once it does, you can use it. So it's less consequential than a player death, but still it takes a long time for the pal to revive. During the daytime, it's really easy to know what to do to be productive. You're out exploring, you're out catching pals, you're out leveling up. Regardless, it's very easy to know what to do during the day. What about at night? Avoid wandering around the base aimlessly, not doing anything. There are a lot of productive things that you can do at night. If your base is near resources, it's very important to gather resources such as ore, wood, perhaps killing these pals next to your base. The other really good thing to do is checking your equipment, making sure you're prepared for the next day. Is all your gear repaired and ready to go? Do you have enough pal spheres? Is your food in a good spot? Preparing for the next day is probably the best thing you can do in the early game. For those who are later in the game, the other really good thing you can do is finding a spot that you can fast travel to in the night that has resources readily available to collect right around the kind of the fast travel zone. Let me show you what I mean. So this spot is right next to Desolate Church, and it has a whole bunch of ore conveniently located right close to the travel point. So I come here at night, collect the ore, and head back. There's no way really to take damage here as long as you have some sort of cloth armor. You're going to be protected from the night chill, and this is a really good way to spend the night time in the later game. Okay, this is an example of how it could go wrong, but if you are geared enough, this will be an easy fight. And that's it for this video. It took so long that I ended up changing outfits. Whatever, it happens. How do you like my pals in the background? I thought it was appropriate for this video. Hopefully I hit all of the big ones and you've learned something new from this video. Let me know in the comments below though if I missed any of the big ones. Thanks for watching. Spooky Pops out.